But first, the farce over our Prime Minister's first face-to-face meeting with the American President. This whole will he or won't it take place? Well, it's now very serious. Either President Donald Trump has no interest in meeting this Prime Minister, or Anthony Albanese has no particular interest in meeting this particular president. Perhaps it's a mutual aversion. President Trump doesn't want to meet the guy who's just rewarded terrorism. And our PM doesn't want to meet the guy who's pulled out of Paris, who's called climate change a hoax, and who's going to berate him about not spending enough on defence. If this was a squabble between our government and a bit player on the world stage, fair enough. Nothing to see here, move on. But it's not. The United States is our most important ally, bar none. We would be speaking Japanese if it wasn't for their support in the Second World War, and we'll be speaking Mandarin in the years ahead unless this mess gets sorted out. Because we expect the Americans to sell us at least 3 of their Virginia-class nuclear-powered subs. And yet the Congress that has to sign off on this, and the admirals who then must make it all happen, can readily see that our bloke is persona non grata. Now, for good reason, I might add, that he is persona non grata. On much of this, I side with the Americans, but don't let the justifications here belie the gravity of the rift. This is serious now. AUKUS, the most important defence agreement since the ANZUS Treaty, some say perhaps since bigger than even ANZUS itself, is at risk because our Prime Minister is not mature enough to do what every other Prime Minister before him has done, and that's make an official visit to the White House. Now, it's not hard. Every PM I can think of has done it, whether the incumbent in the White House was of their political persuasion or not. But not so Albanese, the hard-left student politician who's never really grown up. We can see it in the way he can't get to Beijing fast enough to fawn over the Chinese dictator Xi Jinping, making 2 such pilgrimages to our communist adversaries, and yet apparently not able to find the Oval Office on a map. In announcing the president's schedule, the White House press secretary made it clear Australia would not be granted a face-to-face meeting while many others would.
The president will also be hosting bilateral meetings with the UN Secretary General and the leaders of Ukraine, Argentina, and the European Union. The president will also later in the day hold a multilateral meeting with Qatar, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Turkey, Pakistan, Egypt, the UAE, and Jordan.
I think that makes, 3 Oval Office face-to-faces for Ukraine. At the same time, too, Carolyn Levitt made it clear the president's thoughts on countries like Australia that moved to recognise a Palestinian state before the hostages were released or peace had come to the region.
As for all of these Western nations that are recognizing a Palestinian state, the president has been very clear. He disagrees with this decision. He spoke about that in the UK, standing right next to his friend, Prime Minister Starmer. And he feels this does not do anything to release the hostages, which is the primary goal right now in Gaza, does nothing to end this conflict and bring this war to a close. And frankly, he believes it's a reward to Hamas. So he believes these decisions are just more talk and not enough action from some of our friends and allies.
And our PM's UN speech, likening the creation of the Jewish state to the Palestinian people's desire for a homeland, given that Israel was founded in the wake of the Holocaust and their connection, the Jews' connection to the lands they live on now, goes back thousands and thousands of years, was deeply insulting.
Recognising the aspirations of the Palestinian people is about more than a seat, a voice and a vote in the councils of the world. It is about real hope for a place to call home. This is the same hope that sustained generations of Jewish people.
In response, the government's boosters said that perhaps the lack of a presidential meeting was no bad thing. In fact, it was a good thing, given that we already had a better tariff deal than almost anyone else.
I think we should see this as a good thing because it means that the president, who's been meeting with world leaders to try and reach agreements on trade policy, he's trying to do deals with other nations around tariffs and trade policy. He doesn't need to do that with Australia.
I mean, come on, Matt Thistlethwaite, you are a goose. If some staffer handed me those lines, I just refuse to repeat them. It's just not credible. Later on today, Labor went from saying no meeting is a good thing, those stupid lines I just mentioned, to saying we might get one anyway, wait for it, at a reception that Trump will host for some 100 or more heads of government.
Anthony Albanese will meet Donald Trump briefly for the first time. He is one of about 100 world leaders going to a reception on Tuesday night in New York that Donald Trump is hosting.
I mean, you're kidding me. I've been to more of these international shindigs and I've had hot dinners. Any idea that you're going to have a serious discussion in a room like that Donald Trump and Anthony Albanese will even find themselves in a packed reception? Well, that's not a meeting. You can't discuss anything sensitive or important in a room like that. And to try and spin otherwise is just desperation now from the Albanese office. Australia warrants a serious sit-down meeting with the man who leads the government that frankly has our future security in its hands. That's why the PM has to deal with his Trump phobia and request the formal meeting in the Oval Office that every one of his predecessors has had. And not to shirk tough conversations, including about AUKUS, that King Charles clearly has had, but that our Republican PM is squibbing. Now, frankly, this also is where Kevin Rudd's letting us down. If the PM had no anti-Trump history, it wouldn't matter that our ambassador had. But the fact that our PM has this anti-Trump history, as does our ambassador, well, this is a huge problem for Australia. This administration's got a long, long memory. It remembers casual insults and it expects people to make amends. Keir Starmer's done this to the long-term benefit of the UK-US relationship. And it just goes to show you how much, doesn't it? On so many levels, Anthony Albanese is a little man. He's a man who's never grown up much beyond his student days as a political radical who marched for Palestine and had his head turned by Marxism and Communism. If only getting a meeting with a president was as easy as ripping off his lines.
In Australia, we have serious challenges to solve and we need serious people to solve them. Unfortunately, Tony Abbott is not the least bit interested in fixing anything.
We have serious problems to solve, and we need serious people to solve them. Bob Rumson is not the least bit interested in solving it.
He's only interested in two things: making Australians afraid of it and telling them who's to blame for it.
He is interested in two things, and two things only: making you afraid of it and telling you who's to blame for it.